Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya yato Anvayaditaratascha Artheshu Abhigyaswarat Tene Brahmahridaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yat Suraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Nigamakalpataror Galitam Phalam Shukamuka Damrita Dravasanyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. We now enter the 57th chapter of the 10th Skandha of Bhagavatam. We saw the gem Syamantaka and how that gem created many problems, but also how it resulted in the marrying of both Jambavati and Satyabhama with Krishna. So Krishna, his primary consort is Rukmini, as we saw. Then he married Jambavati, the daughter of Jambavan, after fighting with Jambavan, and Jambavan recognizing finally that he was fighting with his own lord, and then making up by offering the gem back, but also his daughter. And then Satyabhama, because she's the daughter of Satrajit, and the Satrajit was the one who originally got the gem, and therefore he initially doubted Krishna that he had taken the gem by killing his brother, and therefore Krishna brought back the gem from the forest, and then Satrajit felt ashamed, and therefore he also offered his daughter Satyabhama. So we see that Krishna had married these two. Totally Krishna will marry 8 primary queens. Out of them 3 are married so far. We'll see the remaining 5 as well soon. By the way, the number 8 is very special in Krishna's pastimes. As we can remember, Krishna is the 8th child of Devaki. He was born on the 8th day of the lunar fortnight, the Ashtami. In Vrindavan, when he was playing with the gopis, there were Ashtasakis. There are 8 primary gopis, Radha, Lalita, Vishakha, and so on. And similarly, in Dwaraka, he'll have 8 primary queens. So the number 8 is very auspicious and significant in Krishna's pastimes. So out of the 8, so far Krishna has married 3. Now Shuka Brahma Rishi continues with this gem and how this gem creates more havoc. Again, also reminding how attachment to material wealth, which seems like a blessing, is actually a curse. So what happens is, after restoring the gem back to Satrajit, and Satrajit wanted to give it back to Krishna, but Krishna said, no, you keep it. Just accepted his daughter, but not the gem. Then it so happened that at that time, back in Hastinapur, the capital of the Pandavas, there was a terrible news that came that the Pandavas and Kunti were burned in their house. So, as we saw a few chapters back, Akrura was sent to Hastinapura, and Kunti had complained to Akrura about all the miseries they are being put through by Duryodhana. And now this news came that Duryodhana had burned Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas, and their mother Kunti in a house. Of course, Krishna knows that they were not burned. They escaped the house because of a device. They got to know that this was the plan of Duryodhana, so they built an underground tunnel and they escaped through that before the house was burned. So everybody thought they had died, including Duryodhana, who was very happy, and many others who were very sad. But in reality, they had escaped, and they will reveal that they are alive only sometime later, much to the consternation of Duryodhana. But for now, everybody thinks they have died. So the news arrives to Dwaraka, and Krishna also, it is said here, Shuka Brahma Rishi says, pretending like ordinary men, he also expressed sorrow. He, of course, knows there is nothing to grieve over because they are not affected by this at all. And even if there is death, Krishna has already taught in Gita that everything that is impermanent comes and goes. There is nothing to exult or grieve over. And especially in this case, of course, the Pandavas will not be affected by anything. They are the chosen devotees of Krishna who have a specific mission to accomplish, so they are fine. It's just that the news comes in this way, and Krishna also plays along with the world. And so he, in following protocol, he and Balaram go to Hastinapur to inquire, because it is only natural that if the five great princes and their mother Kunti, who is Krishna's own aunt, has been killed, it is only appropriate that Krishna and Balaram go there and take part in the protocols that are there after they have presumably died. So Krishna and Balaram go to Hastinapur, and there they meet Bhishma, Kripa, Drona, and so on, Vidura, and so on. And they are all very sad. Everybody is very bereaved, and Krishna also acts like he is sharing in their grief. Meanwhile, when Krishna has left Dwaraka along with Balaram, Akrura and Kritavarma, there are two devotees of Krishna. We already saw Akrura, who is very devoted to Krishna, who came to Vrindavan to take the boys Krishna and Balaram back to Mathura from Vrindavan. And he literally came rolling in the mud of Vrindavan when he approached Vrindavan. So he is such a great devotee. And because of that, he and Kritavarma, who is another devotee, they, in their own overzealous devotion, they harbored great angst against Satrajit, because, as we can recall, Satrajit, who got the gem, he accused that Krishna had stolen the gem from his brother. When his brother was killed by the lion and the gem was taken away by Jambavan, he didn't know that, nobody knew that, so they all thought Prasena, the brother, was killed and the gem is gone. So they all did not know what happened to the gem, but Satrajit wrongly accused Krishna of having stolen the gem, and the news spread in Dwaraka. And to only remove that wrong reputation, Krishna himself went to the forest and fought with Jambavan and recovered the gem. So Satrajit, having accused the Lord himself, he of course repented and he offered the gem back and his daughter, and Krishna accepted the daughter but kept the gem with him. But Akrura and Kritavarma are still nursing anger towards Satrajit because Satrajit accused their Lord. So they decide to finish him off. This is the overzealousness of devotees, because Satrajit has given his own daughter Satyabhama, who is a very special consort of Krishna, and therefore Satrajit has presumably made up for his sin. But the two devotees were not satisfied, so they instigate one person called Shatadhanva and tell him that you are the rightful owner of this gem. Why is Satrajit having this gem? Only you should possess the gem. This is the right time. Why don't you just grab the gem from him and just kill him off? So this Shatadhanva was already nursing anger towards Satrajit, and now these two stoked his anger because they wanted to satisfy their anger towards Satrajit because of having accused Krishna. So all of this, we can see how it all creates a mess in its own way and shows how material possession creates all kinds of problems. So they instigate, even though they are devotees of the Lord, because of their devotion, they have this anger towards Satrajit, and because of that, they instigate Shatadhanva to kill Satrajit. So Shatadhanva is very happy to do that because he was already angry. Now he got the green light from two senior devotees. So he goes to the palace of Satrajit when he is sleeping, and he enters the palace and he instantly kills him, butchers him. All the women there are wailing, seeing this cold-blooded murder of Satrajit, and he grabs the gem and goes away. Now the news reaches Satyabhama, who is in the palace of Krishna, and Satyabhama is of course mightily affected. It is her own father who has been killed now, and it is the father-in-law of Krishna. So Akrura and Kritavarma, in their overzealousness, forgot that they got killed the very father-in-law of Krishna himself, the father of his beloved spouse Satyabhama. So Satyabhama was crying now, but she is also a very strong woman. We will see more and more that Satyabhama has the attitude of being very strong. Rukmini is very much in the mood of serving Krishna like Lakshmi, whereas Satyabhama is someone who takes part in expeditions and is very valorous. So Satyabhama instantly decides on her own to go all the way to Hastinapur. So she is very brave. So she doesn't wait for Krishna and Balaram to come back. She instantly drives all the way herself. We can see the valor of a woman in Satyabhama. She just drives all the way. She first soaks the body of Satrajit, her father, in oil. It is said that there is special oil that holds the body without it decomposing, because she didn't want his body to be cremated without Krishna seeing it. So she put his body in special oil to guard it against decomposition, to maintain it. And then she herself drove to Hastinapur and told Krishna what has happened, that her father has been killed by Shatadhanva. As soon as the news reaches, again Krishna is well aware of everything. So he is being omniscient, he is aware of all this, but he pretends again as if a great calamity has befallen us. So he and Balaram immediately come back to Dwaraka to kill Shatadhanva, because Shatadhanva has killed Satrajit. Knowing this news, Shatadhanva is very anxious now, because he didn't expect this to happen. So Shatadhanva, he should have really expected it, but he didn't think about it, that he had killed Krishna's own father-in-law. So now he goes to the two devotees who instigated him, Kritavarma and Akrura. And now they both are helpless, because they acted out of their overzealous devotion, but they now recognize that they have offended the wife of Krishna himself, and they cannot intervene in this. So they express their helplessness. First, Kritavarma says, I cannot do anything because Krishna and Balaram are so powerful. You all saw what happened to Kamsa, the mighty king who was killed by Krishna. You know about Jarasandha, his father-in-law. Krishna's conquest of Jarasandha 17 times. And therefore, he says, I cannot do anything. Then Akrura also says, he is the Supreme Lord, and I have no right to say anything to him. He maintains the whole universe. You may know, he held Govardhan mountain in his finger for a whole week to protect against rain. And he is the Lord of unimaginable potencies, and therefore I cannot do anything in terms of interfering with his pastimes. He says, Namastasmai Bhagavate Krishnaya Adbhuta Karmane Anantaya Adibhutaya Kutasthaya Atmane Namaha. He offers only his prayers to Krishna, and he says, he is my Lord, he is the self of all, he is of infinite potencies, and he is of inestimable valor. So I have nothing I can do to intervene in his pastimes. So Shatadhanva is left to the lurch. He was instigated by Akrura and Kritavarma without thinking it through, and now they are also helpless, and Shatadhanva is in great calamity. So he starts riding his horse, which is very fast, and he rides it for a good 800 miles, it is said. But Krishna and Balaram mount a chariot, because they have given the word to Satyabhama that they will take revenge for the death of her father. So they go behind this Shatadhanva, and then he reaches the outskirts of Mithila. Mithila is the capital of the land of Janaka. So this is the place where Sita was born way back during the pastimes of Ram. That's why she is called Maithili. And in the same Mithila, which is ruled by the dynasty of Janaka, so there is another Janaka ruling now. All the kings in that lineage are called Janaka. So there is not one Janaka, there are many Janakas. So the Janaka who is ruling now, Mithila, in this time, in that place outside the capital, they have reached, Shatadhanva has reached there. Krishna chases him, and then his horse becomes tired finally, so he starts running on foot. Krishna gives him a chase, and then, according to the word given to Satyabhama, Krishna hurls his disc as his Sudarshana Chakra and kills him. After he is killed, Krishna of course finds that he doesn't have the gem, because this Shatadhanva, before leaving, he had taken the gem from Satrajit, but he was very afraid of carrying the gem with him, so he left it with Akrura. When Akrura said, I cannot help with protecting your life or anything, he said, at least let me not have this gem, you keep the gem. So he left the gem with Akrura and he drove away. So now he is killed. But after he is being killed, it is found that he doesn't have the gem. So in any case, Balaram says he has reached Mithila, and Mithila is ruled by Janaka, the great king. So Balaram says, we don't know where Shatadhanva has placed it. It must be in Dwaraka only, somewhere with someone. I meanwhile want to see the king of this Mithila, who is Janaka, my friend, and therefore I will go there and spend some time. So he goes and he tells Krishna, you can go back to Dwaraka and trace the gem. So Balaram accordingly goes to enters the capital, and the king is very happy to receive Balaram. He gives him great hospitality, and honored by the king, Balaram stays there for a long time. And interestingly, during that time, Duryodhana comes to know that Balaram is there alone without Krishna. So he comes to Mithila all the way and learns the art of fighting with a mace. So we'll see how Duryodhana always wanted to endear himself to Balaram, and Balaram is known to be very innocent, and therefore he was always helping Duryodhana without realizing his evil plans. And therefore, when Krishna was not there, because Krishna is fully aware of Duryodhana's evil plans, so when Krishna is not there and Balaram is alone, Duryodhana wanted to take advantage by learning the art of fighting with a mace, which he will later use in the war. Of course, he will not be successful, but he is very good at it. Meanwhile, Krishna reaches back to Dwaraka and he tells Satyabhama what happened to his wife. He tells her that I killed the murderer of your father, but alas, the gem is not with him. So we'll have to find the gem here only. And then meanwhile, the final cremation of her father is done. As we can recall, Satyabhama had placed the body in oil, so that body was taken out and offered the final rites. So Krishna offered the final rites to his father-in-law. And then, meanwhile, Akrura and Kritavarma, they are now afraid. Now all this has happened, so they realize that they made a huge mistake by being the cause of the death of Krishna's own father-in-law, even though they did out of devotion. So they decide to leave. Akrura takes the gem and goes to the capital Kashi, which is very far away from Dwarka. And having Akrura gone, Akrura having left the capital Dwaraka, Krishna knows exactly why he has gone, and he has taken the gem with him as well. And Krishna, of course, knows Akrura is a pure devotee who just fell into some ignorance of overzealousness, but his heart is pure. But in any case, Akrura was afraid, or rather repenting, that he had caused the death of Krishna's father-in-law through his own actions. So he left. Meanwhile, Krishna arranged such that Dwaraka had some evil portents, because he wanted to bring Akrura back. So the way he arranged it is, he arranged for some evil omens like earthquakes and drought and so on, because that way everybody will clamor for Akrura to be brought back. So they all speak among themselves that Akrura left this kingdom, and immediately we are seeing all these evil omens. Of course, they don't realize that Krishna is there, and Krishna is the abode of all auspiciousness, and therefore no evil omens can come unless he arranges for it. But this was his arrangement, that people will think it is because of Akrura's absence. Therefore, Akrura is called back. Everybody wants Akrura to come back so that the kingdom again can be auspicious. So Krishna, his plan having been fructified, or his plan having been fulfilled by the desire of people to bring back Akrura, he sends for Akrura. He knows exactly where Akrura is in Kashi, so he sends for him. Because in Kashi, what happened was, his father had the same story. His father, Akrura's father, once, when Kashi was going through a drought, Akrura's father was given the daughter of the king of Kashi, and after that there was rains in Kashi, and therefore everybody thinks Akrura also, just as his father, will bring rains. So in any case, Akrura is brought back to the capital of Dwaraka. And as soon as he is brought back, Krishna immediately brings him to his quarters. And Akrura is afraid because he did this mistake of first causing the death of Krishna's own father-in-law, the father of dear Satyabhama. And also he ran away with the gem out of the sphere. So Krishna makes him feel comfortable and says, not to worry, whatever you have done, we know that the gem, Syamantaka gem, is with you. In reality, it belongs to Satyabhama because Satyabhama is the daughter of Satrajit, and Satyabhama's son will be the rightful owner of it. But it is okay, you can keep it. Just show the gem because I don't want anyone to think that I have the gem, because again, Krishna went and killed Shatadhanva, but he didn't bring the gem back. So again, there were some people murmuring that Krishna took the gem. So what all this shows is, even if the Lord himself comes, people do not hesitate to accuse him. That is why there is a saying that there will always be those who are ready to cast aspersions on anyone. There has never been a great being who has been free of being cast aspersions by the public. So Krishna himself here, this happened even during Ram's pastimes. And now similarly, during Krishna's pastimes, in this particular pastime especially, we see again there are some whispers that Krishna went all the way, killed Shatadhanva, but he did not show us the gem. So Krishna tells Akrura, just reveal the gem to the whole public so that everybody knows the gem is with you, and then you can keep the gem, and I know that you will use the gem for pious purposes because the gem brings about a lot of gold and wealth, and Akrura, being a man of charity, will engage it in charity, in honoring the priests and conducting sacrifices and so on. And therefore Krishna tells him, just show the gem so that everybody knows where it is, and then you can continue to keep it and engage it in your charity and sacrificial activities. And thereby Akrura also is very happy, and he is now showing the gem off to everyone. And then after the gem is shown, Akrura gets the gem back, and then he keeps it to engage in charity. So with this, the story of Syamantaka gem ends. So we see how this whole story is so strange in that just because of this one radiant gem, which is as radiant as the sun we saw, in the last two chapters, we have seen so many deaths. First, Satrajit's brother got killed. Then after that, Satrajit himself gets killed. And Krishna was himself doubted of having taken the gem. So all of this happens, and Akrura, a dear devotee, himself indulges in actions that are not exactly wise. So all of this happens because of this gem. So the most expensive gem, and this gem signifies material wealth itself. When material wealth excessively comes suddenly, it causes mind to go crazy, and it results in people losing their balance, making all kinds of wrong decisions, and worst of all, even doubting the Lord himself of taking the gem when everything belongs to him, to accuse him of taking a silly gem. This is how material wealth pollutes the minds of people. That's what is seen in the last two episodes. So with this, the story of Symantaka gem ends. But the only good thing is, as we saw, it resulted in two marriages of Krishna with both Jambavati and Satyabhama. But otherwise, it has caused a lot of calamities. And now the gem is put to rest. And with this chapter ends. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.